And what's up, everybody? What's up, everybody in the chat? Oh, hey, the sound is kicking on here. Okay, it feels a little bit better now. Didn't want to have to adjust that mic here. But what's up, everybody? Good to see everybody bright and early here in the morning. Too fucking early indeed, guys. Too early indeed. But it's good to see everybody here in the chat. Good to see some of the OGs, everybody out here in the chat. Yeah. Catherine, over under 8 minutes late, under baby, under. We get 1 minute. That is unbreaded by my standards. But good to see everybody here in the chat today. We got a good topic. We're going to be talking about Gonzalo Lira, Coach Red Pill, and I'm going to be on Scott's show after this, Future Conflict, and we're going to be talking about Nance. We're going to talk about the new fighters. We're going to talk about what's going on over there, and some of the Ukraine grifters. And Gonzalo Lira came up because this is a huge topic. Look, other law tubers have covered it. I know Viva said some stuff. I actually haven't even watched Viva's take. Joe, I had to fast forward through Joe's. Joe had like a very quick take. It was his thumbnail, but it appears he only talked about it for like 3 or 4 minutes. And everybody's allowed to have their take. But on my angle, it's a little bit different because if you guys don't know anything about me and maybe don't know where I came from, I ended up, before I've started this YouTube thing, I was friends with a lot of the guys in the quote unquote manosphere. I know a lot of the guys before I started YouTube, but I just met them. So I knew people like Rolla Tomasi. I'd met Myron from Fresh and Fit. I knew some red pill folks and people in the manosphere, and Gonzalo Lira was a familiar name to me. I actually almost met Gonzalo Lira, but we were in the kind of, he was in Miami when I wasn't in Miami. So it's kind of like a misconnection. My initial take on Gonzalo Lira was as a manosphere content creator. And frankly, at first, when I first started listening to him, I just didn't like him. But just like in LawTube, where some people prefer me, some people prefer Legal Bites, some people prefer Joe, some people prefer, I don't know, Barnes and Viva, you can have your flavor that you prefer. But as long as they're speaking facts, that doesn't make the facts any less true. So if you hear something that's a fact from Nick, that doesn't make it less true than if Nate says it or if Joe says it or if anybody else says it. A fact is a fact. And just because initially Gonzalo Lira's personality didn't jive with me doesn't mean what he said wasn't true. And this whole thing going down made me go back and review what he said, some of his red pill content, and then his recent content, and kind of say, is what he's saying more true than untrue? Is it more true than untrue? And this got me into the whole alive or dead question, because there's a huge debate. Is Gonzalo Lira alive or dead? And as I was reviewing how I felt about Gonzalo Lira, Coach Red Pill, how I felt about his content, what was up with him, I came up with 2 damn good theories. A damn good theory for him being alive and well, and a theory for him being dead as fuck. Okay? So we're going to go over both. We're going to hit both. We're going to talk about both. And shout out to everybody in the chat here. I see a lot of my mods here. I see a lot of people in the chat. And a lot of people already starting out. CRP says he's always been a grifter. Easy to tell from the IBS days. So we'll get into that. So let's start with this. Who is Gonzalo Lira? Because a lot of people probably don't know who the fuck Gonzalo Lira is. They don't know Coach Red Pill, what's going on with this. Maybe the only thing they've seen is the Daily Beast article. And we will cover the Daily Beast article. But what is he doing? What is his type of content? Well, initially, Gonzalo Lira, Coach Red Pill, was writing about the FBI, was writing about essentially covert ops. He's a Chilean American. Okay. So he spent a lot of times in Chile, a lot of time in America, ended up shacking up with a Ukrainian woman, moving out to Ukraine, to Eastern Europe. And he was there before the onset of the Ukraine war. He didn't move out there simply because of it. He's not like Nance, who we'll cover tonight on Scott's show, who's a grifter who just showed up for Ukraine. Now, we'll get into whether he's grifting off Ukraine a la Jack Murphy, the Murphy theory. We'll get into that. We're gonna get into the Murphy theory. You guys know I will never leave a cuck behind. So the Murphy theory is going to be talked about. But, and you know, I haven't read everything he's put out. I haven't. I simply haven't. However, even people you disagree with, even people you don't like, can be right sometimes. Even people that, frankly, are dicks, are assholes who you don't like, maybe they have an abrasive personality, they can still be fucking right. And that's a hard thing to accept. A lot of people have a really hard time parsing that out. But if you want to be able to really take in information and be your own judge, make the best decisions, you need to learn to be able to learn from people that you don't like. For example, Bill Gates, despicable person, horrible hypocrite. But some of the things he did at Microsoft, especially early on, some of the cutthroat business tactics he used, they're effective. Does that mean because those cutthroat business tactics he used in the very beginning of the company, just because those were effective and those were lessons that people who are learning to be CEOs or learning to run companies could stand to learn from, just because those business tactics might be worth learning, doesn't make him a good person, doesn't mean he's a good role model, doesn't mean he's not a total degenerate. But if you're able to pick out what's good from the husk of the person, if you're able to remove the personality and take the lesson, you will be so much better served. If you're able to look past the labels, look past the teams. Is he Team Russia? Is he Team Ukraine? This whole Gonzalo Lira thing is wrapped up in teams. Team Ukraine, Team Russia, Team Red Pill, Team Blue Pill. And we've got to pick a side. And with Gonzalo Lira, it is way more complicated than that. And the truth may be somewhere in between. So let's start with where he was at. So he came into the manosphere, the red pill community, relatively late. He himself admits that he came, I think, in 2011 or 2012 to the United States, and he read The Game by Mystery, which is long after that's come out. That was actually an old book at that point. And he learned about negging. And he's like, oh, well, I've been doing this forever. Now, at that point, a lot of people were beginning to grift on the manosphere. Why? Because YouTube was out, because blogging was easy, and because there was lots of money to be made. This was ripe content. There were not a lot of content creators, and there was money to be made on selling courses, selling products in that particular sphere. There was a lack of people talking to men. And let me be very clear. I've said this on a lot of people's podcasts, said this with Drex. Men need help, need guidance. Jordan Peterson, he was successful because of that, because of the lack of male role models, the lack of instruction at home. There need to be positive male role models. And there's room for a lot more people to get a lot more exposure in that area. The problem is, anytime men try to expose themselves or try to improve themselves, rather, they're called out by the left. They're called out by the woke. And they're even called out by those on the right. The conservatives. They're called out by saying, hey, you're trying to improve yourself, man? No. Get back in there. Go to work. Be that beta wagey who's working in the corporate office the entire time, doing what they're told, wearing their mask, getting triple jabbed, and listening to Joe Biden. And when somebody comes up and says, hey, maybe you should consider starting your own business. Hey, maybe you should consider working out. Hey, maybe you should consider your health. Maybe you should consider becoming confident with women. These are all good things. These are all great things. The problem is it's hard to separate them from the personality, from the individual. And if you don't like that individual, well, it's hard to pull that away. And frankly, Coach Red Pill is pretty abrasive. He was the type of guy who, listening to him, he just kind of says whatever. He doesn't have a filter. Some people love that. Some people hate that. He also would be, in certain terms, too extreme. He would say things in a way that set it out as an absolute rule. Now, he has this video. If we have time at the end, I'm going to play 2 videos. At the end, if we have time, once I get past this whole debate of alive versus dead. But he had a video that got him big that says, never date a girl over 25. Very controversial. It's actually a fucking great video, but it got it in terms of like to debate about, because it's a good conversation starter. It's a good topic. And there's truth to it and untruth to it. You know, some things he said there are true. Some things he says, I'm like, well, I could debate that. Not everybody, right? But it got him kicked off of YouTube. And it got him pretty much exiled to Patreon, alt tech platforms, and exiled off the island, off of YouTube for that video and similar content. I actually found the video on Billy. Leave it to some misogynist Asians to put it up there on their website. So we'll be watching. If we have time, we'll watch it on Billy. It's a good one. It's a good one. So that's where he started out. He started out making manosphere content. So he was late to the game. And now people could say, you can make an argument that at that point, he was so late to the game that it was a grift. He got in as a grift. And Gonzalo Lira is not a fit guy. He's not a buff guy. He's also not the richest guy. He never was the richest guy. He doesn't look like an alpha giga Chad. He doesn't have the fucking chin that could cut steel. He's not a guy who seems particularly charismatic. He's loud. He's confident. He's abrasive. And yeah, that's enough to get girls. He seems to me, as a guy who grew up in Miami, kind of like the typical middle-aged machismo guy from South America, which is fine. Those guys can get girls. But maybe not the best role model for everybody. And maybe somebody that you look at him and you're like, why do I got to follow this guy? He looks kind of dopey. And especially as people get older, it's harder and harder. It's less and less credible to view them as somebody in the manosphere that, hey, this is a role model to emulate. There's always some younger guy coming up or some younger person coming up. It's like, okay, well, this guy's more credible if this guy gets laid, but this old guy, he's probably got to pay for it. Yeah, and guys, do not spam the chat. I will definitely, it's definitely something you don't do. Just don't do it. But that being said, so he started with this red pill content. He was a red pill content creator. And he did that for years and years, a red pill content creator. And let me just show you some of the type of content that he made. And this is even goes to content that he made recently. So recently, he made content both on Ukraine and more red pill type content. So here you go. You've got, this is his Patreon here. And you've got him saying, new content every Wednesday, video conferencing every Sunday, Coach Red Pill. He had a $5 tier, a $10 tier for webinars. This is actually really cheap, honestly. Like, this is like my locals. Like, I mean, it's very inexpensive. I don't feel like this isn't Jack Murphy level criminal order grift. But he had a good amount of people who followed, 3,000 Patreons. So, at $10, I mean, that's a pretty good take every month. That's a pretty good take every month. So making 30K a month, it's pretty good. It's pretty good, right? He just says his intro here is pretty decent. I know shit not because I'm smarter than you, because I've been around longer. He released content. So you can see here lately, he was doing Ukraine content. So he was talking to a UN's weapons inspector. He was talking to other folks about Ukraine and Ukraine-related topics. He was posting #NotDeadYet as of March 11th. Also posting in his private community and other places and in videos on YouTube that if he doesn't show up for 12 hours, he may be dead. But he was posting about how, and here in this post right here, this announcement he puts on his Patreon, this is April 4th, he says, the month of March 2022 has been utter disaster insofar as my commitment to you. He's talking to his Patreon community. To be blunt, I failed in my commitment to deliver consistent high-quality content. I'm going to outline on how I'm going to make it up for you. For $5 tiers, I'm going to do an essay. For $10, I'm going to do blah, blah, blah. But he gets into it down here saying, it's been an emotional roller coaster. He's been unable to concentrate on any long-term tasks or goal, and hyper-focused on a scrap of news in order to understand what's going on. These live streams that I have been doing, in a very real sense, have been a mental vomit of all the information I've accumulated to help me navigate this war. Unfortunately, and it pains me to admit this, but over the first 5 weeks since the war began, I've been almost completely reactive as opposed to proactive. So he's saying he's fucked up, he didn't deliver, and he understands if they unsub to him. I think this is a pretty candid view, and he even is admitting that he's been shifting to a Ukraine grift. So just remember that. He's kind of cognizant of that. It's not like Jack Murphy, who did it kind of like a hard shift, who said, hey, I'm going from one thing to another. He's kind of cognizant of it a little bit more. And another example, by the way, he pissed off people with his red pill content enough that he had creators like Destiny, for example. This is on Destiny's channel, obviously, Uber grifter right here. But he was, so Gonzalo Lira was on Fresh and Fit, and Destiny, while he was playing fucking RuneScape like a 12-year-old. I mean, I literally played RuneScape when I was 12. Bro, come on. Destiny is trying to mock Coach Red Pill, Gonzalo Lira, for talking about the issues with American women. And we're going to play, if I have time at the end, I'll play a clip from the same episode. Not this clip particularly, but but a clip about how feminism is not really something that was brought forward by the left, but really by corporations and corporatism, which is something unique because frankly, a lot of what Coach Red Pill brought up, a lot of things he talked about, he didn't invent anything new. It's stuff that PUAs and other people in the manosphere and Red Pill community have been talking about for decades and years. He was just repeating it. And frankly, that's why the manosphere and the Red Pill community is so full of grifters. It's so full of grifters because there's no barrier to entry. You're just stating facts and you're stating publicly accessible information. And frankly, that's why it's so easy to become one of these content creators. You can just literally throw on a webcam and say, woman ain't shit, and just say that for, essentially a certain period of time. And that's going to get through to people, a certain segment of people. Of course, Gonzalo Lira, he had his own brand on it. He had his own spin on it, but still, the barrier to entry is pretty low. It's pretty low. And don't feel old, Michael. I just got you there. You're not old. You're not old. And John says, I don't know any of these people. It makes me sad these people give these idiots money. Yeah, they do. They do, John. And here's the thing. There are people who don't need this stuff. There's people who don't need this stuff. I will say there are people who do need this stuff, who do need help, who do need guidance, need to learn how to save money, need to learn how to work out, need to learn how to not be such a fucking simp. There's people out there who have a serious fucking problem donating money to girls on Twitch and on OnlyFans and on whatever, Fansly, all these websites, thinking they're going to get their validation, thinking they're going to get their attention, thinking this is great. It's really sad. So they do need somebody to fucking slap them straight or get them straight. Salty Dog says, are we sure CRP just didn't elope with a Chechen soldier? He really liked how hard they are. Oh, God. Oh, Saul. This is totally haram. It's totally haram, Saul. You are banned from Chechnya now for such haram sayings. Okay, so what happened with this transition? So Gonzalo Lira, for the past, I think 2 years or 3 years, he's been in Kharkov. So he did not come to Kharkov, Ukraine, which is once again in the eastern part of Ukraine. It's one of the areas that was heavily attacked by the Russians. I'm not even sure who fucking controls it right now. I'll have to talk to Scott after this and the panel on future conflict to figure out who fucking controls Kharkov right now. Oh, yes, Michael is exactly right. This is it. This is the guy you don't want to be. You don't want to be the guy who thinks the stripper likes you, who thinks the waitress is into you. Spoiler alert, the stripper, the bartender, the waitress, they're not into you. It's their fucking job to be nice to you, okay? It's their job. Do not fall in love with the prostitute. Do not fall in love with the sugar baby. Do not fall in love with the stripper. It's not, but there's guys who do. There's legit guys who do. I know people who do, who get so addicted to these strippers, they spend thousands of dollars in a strip club for a girl that will never bang them. It's really sad. It's really sad. So, and guys, if you think I'm swearing, I see someone saying, oh, do you have to swear? If you think I'm swearing, you haven't watched Coach Red Pill. Coach Red Pill sweared much worse than I do. He was extraordinarily profane, which is why he got kicked off of YouTube, because this guy was like just very, very vulgar. Makes me look like a church Sunday, really. But what happened to Gonzalo? He was there in Kharkov, and the war starts. And so all of a sudden he's there. He's still putting out his manosphere content. Before this, he was putting out Red Pill content. He was just doing it exclusively through his Patreon and putting his updates out that way. But he wasn't making much money on it beforehand. His revenue spiked dramatically when he started covering Ukraine. And look, guys, if for 1 second you think that every single person on YouTube doesn't cover the algorithm, you're ignorant. Every content creator, everybody out there is grifting on the algorithm. If the algorithm says Will Smith in the slap, you cover Will Smith in the slap. If it says Johnny Depp, you cover it, right? And you cover it because people are asking for it. People want it. People in the chat are asking for it. People out there are asking for it. So you cover it. And people were asking about Ukraine, so we started talking about Ukraine because he happens to be there. And he happens to have been there for several years, unlike other people. Does that make him a military expert? No, he just happened to be there. By the way, would I call him a citizen journalist? Not really. I would just call him a dude who was there and talking about stuff. Although I guess that makes him more credible than CNN and MSNBC, because frankly, they'll talk about shit without actually ever being there. We'll talk about that with Nance, the fucking joke of a guy with the cruise missile strike that he predicted by reading the air. That was some bullshit. But that aside, he was actually honest in a city that was on the front lines. That does make him more credible than other people. For example, I mean, if there's a North Korean attack on Seoul, yes, I'd be more credible than somebody who's in Cleveland, Ohio, to tell you about what's going on in Seoul. But he just happened to be there at the right time. See, Goody says, my friend is a stripper. The last sugar daddy she had bought her a new car before the money ran out. You think she still talks to him? Hell no. Exactly, see, Goody. Exactly. They're not talking to these guys. They're not talking to these simps. So what happened? So of course we have the war. And what happened immediately? People jumped in these fucking camps. You jumped in camp Russia or camp Ukraine. And you're like, all right, Russia is based in the red pill. So we're going to jump in the Russia corner. Oh, Ukraine is fighting for democracy. We're going to simp for them. All the Dems are doing it. We'll simp for them. Put on the Ukraine flag. Both of those sides, I think to a certain extent, are a little bit of a fucking joke. Are a little bit of a joke. But Gonzalo was reporting facts on what he saw on the ground. And it tends to be that the majority of what he was spotting, the majority of what he was reporting, commentary and editorial comments aside, was just seeing what he was seeing objectively. He did add his commentary, he did add his other stuff, he did have his opinions, but he was saying what he saw going down as a person who lived in Kharkov. But what did the mainstream media, what did the leftist media say about Gonzalo? Oh, by the way, Meryl Trafford said, I only simp for male streamers. Does this make me gay? I need also almost free legal advice. Mark, what's up? No, it doesn't make you gay. No homo. Super chats are no homo. You got to say it though before you send it. You got to say it. You got to say it. Otherwise, it is totally questionable. But thank you for the super chat. All right. So what did they say about him in the Daily Beast, guys? Let's break this down for you. Let's break down the issue here. How a sleazy American dating coach became pro-Putin shill in Ukraine under extremism. This is from the Daily Beast. Okay, of course, guys, if you're watching my channel, you're not a blue pill normie. You know that the Daily Beast is one of the largest leftist progressive fucking shills out there. So of course they're going to come up with some extremist bullshit. They're going to paint anybody. So first of all, sleazy is what you always go with a dating coach. You always say dating coaches are sleazy. Even if they're good dating coaches, even if they're people who are teaching men valuable skills, they'll say, hey, no, it's sleazy. Even ones that are saying, hey, this is how you have a successful relationship. Because by the way, it benefits both men and women to know how to be in a relationship and how to date. It benefits both sexes. One of the most horrible things is that, number one, both sides have forgotten what the other gender wants in them. They've kind of like forgotten that. So it teaches both sides that, hey, this is what men are looking for in a woman. We're looking for, hey, attractiveness, friendliness, agreeableness. Somebody who can be a partner, not a fucking combatant at home. And from women looking to men, they're saying, hey, we want you to be a fucking leader. I don't want to be, I want you to go out there and take responsibility. I want you to be a fucking toxically masculine male, and I'll be much happier to see your guy going out there and accomplishing something, getting shit done, crushing it. That's much sexier to a woman than a fucking loser who's sitting there doing absolutely nothing with his life and eating fucking pork rinds on the couch. No knocking pork rinds. Pork rinds are good, but you gotta more than that. You gotta add some veggies to your diet, not just some rinds all the time, guys. So already you see them knocking the dating coach part. So they're going to knock that. The language is important. And then pro-Putin shill. Well, oh yeah, okay, sure. If you said, is he pro-Zelensky or pro-Putin? He's pro-Putin. But here's the thing. How can there be objective journalism if you're either one or the other? And of course, you have the pictures of him here. And once again, Gonzalo isn't like an attractive dude. And he's got a background that's even worse than mine. I mean, shit, at least I've got some signs in the background now. But he usually had pretty low budget, from his phone, or it looks like something else. But here you go. He peddled sexist, bile, and toxic relationship advice. So already you could hear, once again, what they say about everybody else. They say this about Jordan Peterson. They say it about everybody who's offering any advice to men. They say it's sexist, toxic. These are their buzzwords. Of course they're going to say that because it's stuff that can actually help you, or help you make better decisions, or help you kind of discipline your life. Within a subculture, so now talking about men offering men's advice, populated by men's right activists and incels. So men's right activists are often probably the most mocked because they're so cringe, literally, most of them, the leaders of the MRA movements. And then incels, of course, because every guy is an incel if they're trying to seek advice on dating. So it's really, this language here shows you where they're going. And what do they try to associate that with? They try to associate anything PUA, men's rights. They try to say PUA, men's rights, incels, dating advice. All of that goes with Russia. The only thing you can accept if you're with the West is LGBTQA++ advice, right? That's the only thing you can get. How to peg your partner. Why fisting is okay for men. Jack Murphy advice. The power of the cuck. That's what they want you. That's what the Daily Beast would have you take as relationship advice. Let's just be clear on that. So, and Lira held himself out as saying he's making comments without posting sides. But they come up and they say, oh, well, he called Zelensky evil. And because he called him evil and he called him a cokehead, even though he literally is, because of that, he's toxic. He's pro-Putin. Anybody who dares shame our leather, oh God, the leather tranny Zelensky. If you guys haven't seen that leather pig Zelensky video, go watch my earlier video on Zelensky. Zelensky is not somebody you'd want to emulate. Not at all. Because of that, they took after him. And here's another thing. Here's what they took issue with. Look at them. They put this in a fucking giant quotes. HR departments are exceedingly dangerous to anyone who's been red-pilled. That's fucking true. If you speak anything about, and forget about just relationship dynamics, if you're just red-pilled about anything, HR is going to fucking hate you. HR is about compliance, not individuality, not personal liberty, and not facts. Karen in HR, she fucking hates facts because they go against the corporate doctrine. And of course, under here, they try to run it together with Russia. And here we go. The manosphere has grown increasingly intertwined with far-right networks and influencers, soaking up this radical fringes resonant but distinct ideas about the evils of the West. So because a lot of red pill content creators talk about Western women and the problems with Western women, they say, they're pro-Putin. So they're making this link between people who are creating content and Putin. This is a huge fucking problem. This is a huge problem. Is they're trying to say that anybody who puts out information they don't like, you are a Russian shill. And this is disgusting. It's abhorrent. And you're seeing it like, for example, it's like calling somebody a commie during McCarthyism. But it's worse now because they're actually canceling you. We didn't have canceling during the McCarthy era. Now you're getting fired. Now you're getting exiled. Now you're getting thrown off of social media. You're being deplatformed. You can't bank. You can't send money. These are serious consequences of being affiliated with Russia. Imagine that. You're affiliated with Russia. Now you can't even use the SWIFT system. These are serious consequences, and this is what they're pushing. And this is why, to an extent, we need to push back against this idea that anybody who comes here and is saying anything that can help men or women, or just giving general critique of the West and our relationships, is automatically associated with Putin and therefore evil. That's insane. And I agree, filthy casual. They can cancel me all the way to the grave. That's why you got to become resilient. That's why you've got to become more resilient in your personal life. So you can say, hey, I'm going to make my own decisions. Fuck you, Karen in HR. I'm not doing what you tell me. Not doing what you tell me. IFID says, you rock soju. Get Terrence Pop on the show. I would love to get Terrence Pop on the show. I will definitely hit him up. FBI Global says, what's your favorite bar for juicy girls? Oh, man. A lot of juice out there. A lot of juice out there on the streets. All right. So here's my two theories. Gonzalo Lira, alive or dead? Well, actually, let me let you guys vote. Where do you want me to start? Do you want me to start with the argument for alive or dead? A's in the chat for alive first, or D's in the chat for dead first? Because I've got theories on both. I want to see in the chat. A's for alive, D's for dead. I'm going to argue both. So you guys, you now have a background. You know who this guy is. You know what the plan is. You know what the agenda is. But there's two competing narratives. Which one do you want to hear first? Okay, you guys want to get the D. You guys really want to get the D. It looks like you guys are like really, really wanting to get the D. Okay. So because you guys are literally begging for the D, we're going to talk about it. All right. So here's the theory that he's dead. First of all, Gonzalo Lira said he was checking in and he hasn't checked in. He hasn't checked in on any of his platforms. I checked before this thing. I checked his Telegram. I checked his Patreon. He hasn't checked in on anything. He hasn't touched it. So he really disappeared off of everything. He's not secretly talking on one thing. And he monetarily has an incentive to keep posting on Patreon. So there's an incentive for him to keep posting there, to keep active in his Telegram. There's a huge incentive for that. Going further, you had people saying, Azov people saying they were looking for Lira, that they wanted Lira, that they hoped he would die. There were people out there saying, hey, we're going to get this motherfucker. We're going to kill him. And here's another thing. There's people with cell phones, people with cameras, people with other stuff. So if he's out there, wouldn't he have made a message at some point? And if he was alive and being tortured, let's say he's being tortured. Remember that pilot? There's a Russian pilot that they took and they beat him up and they called his wife and said they were going to castrate him. I don't know if you guys saw that one, but the Ukrainians posted this. They love to brag. They love to brag when they're torturing somebody, when they're beating people up. They even video when they were like, kicking people, kicking prisoners in the streets. They love to video that shit. They get off on it. And somebody would circulate it because they'd be like, ha ha, we got Lira. We got your boy. But if they just straight up walked up and shot him and tossed him in a ditch in a mass grave, they're not going to say anything about that. They're not going to publicize that because the last thing Ukraine wants is to show they committed war crimes. The last thing Ukraine wants is to make it so they are the Russia. See, what are they doing right now? They're pushing for Russia to be the war criminal in Bucha. They're saying, Russia, you're committing crimes in Bucha. Here's the thing. You're just not seeing what Ukraine is doing. If they killed him and tossed him in a grave, you're not going to see it. No one's ever going to see it. The Western media will never publish that. They'll never put that out there. And frankly, he was a loud voice. He was getting louder. People were paying attention to him. He was going on shows. People were interviewing him. Shit, you guys in the chat, you asked me to have him on. I had people say, hey, get him on. And I was like, okay, let me, I'm going to Miami. I know people that have had him on. I'm going to talk to them when I get there. They'll give me his contact information. It'll be more of a personal recommendation. Because frankly, guys, I like to have people that are personally recommended. I don't like people that I just barely fucking know on the show. Because that's kind of like too crazy. But I have other people they could recommend me and be like, all right, I'm in, But I never had a chance to interview him. I would have. I had no problem interviewing him. And if he says something ridiculous, I could call him out on it. But I didn't interview him. And he was speaking out and he was saying stuff that, well, the mainstream media didn't like and people in the West didn't like in general. So yeah, that's the case for him being dead. He was going anti-narrative. In fact, he said he was going to write a book. He was going to write a book called Anti-Narrative. So that is the case for him being dead. And I know that a lot of people are going to follow that train of thought. And a lot of people who are like, he was too based, he was shot, he's dead. That's the case. All right, guys, you ready for some A? We did the D. That's the D. Get ready for the A. We're switching tracks, okay, guys? So we're switching tracks. So here is the best argument I have for A. And the biggest argument, the best argument for Gonzalo Lira being alive is the Jack Murphy argument. The Jack Murphy argument. Now, this has been covered a lot. I did not have a chance because, guys, I'm so busy. I don't fucking chance to watch everybody, other creators' live streams. I know that Nick has done a photo with, I think he did it with Adam Krigler, breaking down Jack Murphy's latest video. I know he's had other people on breaking down Jack Murphy's video, his latest video. And if you don't know, Jack Murphy, the guy who used to be a manosphere grifter, he shifted his grift to Ukraine because he saw that he had lost all credibility in the manosphere. He had lost all credibility with men. Anybody who would ever look at him as a men's role model was completely discredited. He cannot, I mean, shit. I don't think he'll ever come on Timcast again. So, Jack Murphy, he shifted over to Ukraine because he saw the grifting was good. But Jack was not even in Ukraine. He couldn't work a good grift. You can't really be credible if you are not Ukrainian yourself, a military expert, or in Ukraine. You've got to be one of those things to be somebody who is credible, who can speak to it intelligently. If you're not somebody who's in the military, who knows about military stuff and is speaking about it militarily, not Ukrainian, so you know the ethnic or cultural background, or not in Ukraine, so you're physically seeing it, you're not credible. And at least Gonzalo Lira had one of them. But guess what? He was moving from grift to grift if you zoom out. He moved from talking about FBI conspiracies and all this other crazy crap that, by the way, heavily popular, especially in South America, because frankly, guess what? The CIA and the FBI and all of our other agencies, DEA, all that, we've been fucking with South America for decades. We've unclassified information on how we've been fucking with South America. We've been doing it for a long time. And so he moved on that grift. He was doing that grift originally. He saw it wasn't making money, so he moved to the manosphere. He made a lot more money in the manosphere. A lot more money. So did a lot of people. He wasn't the only one. He wasn't the only person who moved to that. And look, just because you're grifting doesn't mean you're not putting out good information, but he moved from that grift to that grift. And all of a sudden, Ukraine is trending, and now he's covering Ukraine. And he's covering it like a madman, day and night. Now, here's the argument. Listen up. So here's the scenario where he's alive, where Gonzalo Lira is 100% alive. Gonzalo Lira has said, if you don't hear from me, I'm in trouble. So imagine this. Gonzalo Lira, who, frankly, yeah, he was getting a little bit of coverage, but guys, he was covered in Russia Today. He was covered in Revolver. He was covered on Fox. He's getting national news coverage now for disappearing. National news coverage. He would never get that before. So now he went from somebody who was kind of like relevant a little bit, to someone who is super out there, because now the mainstream media is putting him out there. So let's say he shows up and he is beat up, or he has bruises, scars, whatever. And he's like, oh, I was captured. I was this and that. And I've got my tale of how horrible the Ukrainians are. And he goes and he's about to publish a book. Well, wouldn't that be convenient? Because that book would come out and be an immediate bestseller. He could have beat himself up. He could have hid in his cellar. For all anybody knows. You just hit out. And, boom, he shows up. Maybe he surfaces a week from now. Maybe 2 weeks from now, he surfaces. And he has this tale about captivity, this tale about Nazis. He would make bank. Damn good reason to do it. Damn good reason to fake it. And yeah, when I made the argument for dead, I said, hey, people have cameras. Well, guess what? That also does kind of apply for the capture. So one argument for his captures, maybe somebody would have filmed them capturing him. That's possible. Now, of course, I think it still weighs in favor of dead, because if they actually ended up killing him, then they would have tossed him in a ditch and they wouldn't be using the film. But nevertheless, it would be a good story. He would make a lot of money. He would become rich. That's the best argument, the Jack Murphy grifting element of this. If he appears alive, and frankly, if Gonzalo Lira is alive, I will be highly suspicious that it's a grift. If he's dead, well, I'll believe that a little bit more. All right, Svinstead says, Botsman posted about it on Telegram in the Kraken group or in the Kharkov area. It looks legit they got him. They are not nice people. Yeah, there's a lot of not nice people there. It's a lot of not nice people there, for sure. Also, what's up to Artifacts, my boy Mike, saying Jack's still trying to sound smart about it, knowing shit he doesn't know about. Exactly. Jack doesn't know shit. Please do not listen to Jack. Please do not listen to Jack. All right, guys. So those are my cases. I gave you my best case. So dead is pretty much all the objective theories we've seen. We haven't heard from him. We haven't seen him. He hasn't posted anywhere. But alive, you have the Jack Murphy theory. And the amount of grifters in Ukraine is insane. When I jump on Future Conflict in 20 minutes, we're going to be talking about some of those grifters. And there's going to be more and more and more Ukraine grifters. Because they're trying to make this into World War III. It's not. They're trying to make it that way, but it's not. But, you know, the grift is strong. The grift is smart. And guys, if you like this debate, if you like hearing one side or the other, please smash the like button. Please make sure you're subscribed. And if you really love me, if you love me a long time, and you really want to hear more from me and get more exclusive content, legalmindset.locals.com. That's where you get all the exclusive content from me. All right, guys. And John says, and guys, if you're a member, by the way, shout out, my memberships are open. If you're a member, I'll actually read your chats more. Otherwise, I really don't have time to read super chats, but play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Best possible scenario. If he is alive and faking, enjoy the lie. Enjoy the lie. There you go. All right, guys. Oh, Grimsbar says, ever watch a World War I video and think they're all dead? Yeah, actually, you know what's funny, Grimsbar? This is ironic you said that. I've been watching, like in my downtime, I've been watching a lot of like World War I clips and films and documentaries, and that, because like, you know, kind of forget what a real war is. What a real war is. People at the Battle of the Somme just fucking marched out there and got mowed down. The casualty numbers, not even close for this shit. Not even close for this shit. It's a much different type of war. And Biden is still sending money to this war. But yeah, everybody in World War I is dead. All those people are dead. World War II, most of them are dead. At this point, World War II generation, most of which are dead. The last veteran of World War II will die any moment now. Any moment now. So let me play for you guys, in case you guys haven't seen it, the most controversial clip from Coach Red Pill. Hopefully this doesn't get me yeeted off of YouTube. If it does, whatever. This was on Billy. This is super controversial. Guys, I'm not saying I necessarily agree with this. There's parts about this that are right and wrong. This is on Billy. It's about never date a girl over 25. And Saran, if you can't get locals to work, okay, I'll message you afterwards. You can, I'll help you out with that. All right. He's right and wrong about a lot of things in this video, but this is the most controversial video. So I'm going to play this. It's like 7 minutes. I may only play like half of it, but yeah, this one is pretty good. This one's pretty good. This is one that he put out that got him on the map because it's fucking controversial. All right, here we go. This is on Billy, Chinese platform here. So supporting the Chinese. Let's go full screen on this bitch, and here we go.
Hugh Hefner recently died. Now, Hugh Hefner, let's not kid ourselves. Hugh Hefner was a pimp. That's what he was. He was a pimp who, at the Playboy Mansion, what did he do? He brought together pretty young things with rich and powerful men so that they could frolic together like a good pimp, like a good madam at a bordello in New Orleans. You know, that's what the Playboy Mansion was. It was a whore.
How does he know about madams in the bordellos at New Orleans? We'll continue here.
Whorehouse, you know, and I personally don't care one way or another. I wish I'd been able to go back in the good old days, but other than that, I could care less about the whole situation. But my point, let's not kid ourselves as to who he was, okay? He had great taste in music and great taste in literature and especially in journalism, but he was a pimp. Like a good pimp, you know, there are a lot of lessons to be learned from him. I'll do a post at some future point about pimps because I think that they are fascinating and very, there's a lot to be learned from them. Now, that being said, there's something that happened to Hugh Hefner when he was like in his 50s, 60s. He was dating some young thing. He started dating some young thing who was in her, like, she was 20 or 22 or something like that. And she said to him, when they just started dating, she said, "I've never dated someone over the age of 24. And he replied, "Neither have I."
That's actually pretty funny from Hugh Hefner, but continue.
Which I find just so witty on the one hand, and yet it's very interesting about what it reveals. Because like a good pimp, he understood women. See, that's the thing about pimps. They understand women. That's why you should pay attention to pimps and study them, because they understand women. And like any pimp,
which is by the way, it's a fair point, and one of the points that that I would make is just because someone has deplorable behavior doesn't mean you can't examine it to see why it works. Like we examine cult leaders like Jim Jones or, you know, Waco and stuff like that to say, why did people follow Jim Jones? Why do they do the crazy shit that Jim Jones had them do in Jonesville? That doesn't mean that it's good. It's not, but he clearly did something to the human psyche that works. And the same thing with pimps, I will agree that you have to study, hey, why are they able to get people to get girls in this cycle when it's so negative, it's so bad for them? Why are they able to get them into that? Well, there's some psychology behind that, and you have to understand that. Now, I'm not saying that everything he's saying about it is right, but the fact that he's bringing up that you need to look at people even who have negative behavior to learn a lesson on how they did it. I think that's worth thinking about.
He understood that a woman over the age of 25, 27 on the outside, after that, they are fucked up and you don't want to deal with them ever. Let me explain why.
Okay, extreme statement. I will go out there and say, I don't agree with this. However, I'll let you hear his logic here.
Very simple. See, women are ruled by their emotions. No matter how smart the woman may be, no matter how educated, no matter how much degree she might have, a woman is ruled by her emotions, and she uses her intellect to rationalize what are essentially her emotional decisions. She's ruled by her emotions on a second-to-second basis. That's why no woman can see a plan through for anything, because the hormones get in the way. Okay, they make her change her mind. That's why women tend to be indecisive. That's the way it is. Now, that said, you got to keep in mind that women, their prime drive is to have children. See, and as they near the age of 30, as that biological clock starts ticking ever louder, tick-tock, tick-tock, when they hit 30, they're out of their minds if they haven't had a kid yet. I mean, they really are. In the lead up to the age of 30, what starts to happen is that if a woman doesn't have a man locked down by the age of 27, she starts to change herself to pretend to be somebody that she is not in order to land a man. I've seen it countless times. A woman at 27, she acts a certain way and it attracts men. And then they start dating her, and then they start to realize that this woman is not what she pretended to be. She's changed herself and is pretending to be somebody completely different. It's like a Jekyll and Hyde show. Okay? Now, women younger than 27, well, actually, now that I think about it, no. Let me change that. It's not 27. Actually, it's 25. Now that I think about it a little bit more carefully, after the age of 25, women start to panic about the fact that they don't have a man and they don't have a kid. The kid is the thing that sets the hormones off.
Okay, so I'll stop it there because it goes on about that. But yeah, man, yeah, that's where he goes on with that. Can you guys see why that's a controversial video? Can you see why people are pissed off about that? Can you see why the Daily Beast does not like that video? That's pretty clear, right? What's up, everybody in the chat? 541 people. Smash the like button, guys. Smash it if you think he is dead or alive. Sam Perchansky, what's up, my boy Sam? Gonzalo had fuck you money. He was a successful screenwriter and then investment banker. He wasn't bilking money from his fans. I doubt this is a grift. Hey, Sam, I didn't know he was an investment banker. You know something about him that I didn't. I didn't know he was an investment banker. That does change a little bit of the analysis, but look, I will say this, Sam. You still have to argue both sides that the grift is possible. But I would say if you told me he was an investment banker and he was successful, okay, well, maybe he was all right then. He died how he lived, buried in piss. Is that piss? Buried in pussy. Pussy. Okay, thank you. We just say it on my channel. I guess Super Chat might not let you say it, but it's my channel. I'm just going to say it, guys. You know this. We're fully unbreaded here. We just say the truth. We just talk the truth here. We spit truth. So look, that was his most controversial video. Do I agree with it? Partly and not partly, right? Of course, women change when they get older. Men change too, by the way, if they get experience. If they're just like man babying themselves and staying in their fucking mom's basement, yeah, men aren't going to grow because men aren't getting experience. And women change too. Now, never date them. That's insane. Of course, I think the thing with Gonzalo is he's too extreme. He just makes an extreme statement. And I'm like, bro, that's the most extreme statement ever. I've had some amazing girls I've dated who have been in their 30s, who have been in their late 20s, who have been fucking fantastic. They've been some of the best girls I've ever gone out with. In fact, the only reason why I'm still not seeing them is because they just moved away and their circumstances didn't work out. And they were fucking amazing. They were nice to me. I treat people how they treat me. If they're treating me nice, if a girl's treating me nice, good on her. And after you've dated a couple girls, you can tell the crazy ones that are going to do the little Jekyll and Hyde shit. You can tell. You can smell that shit a mile away. And by the way, the thing that people don't realize is, he says don't date them. It's like, okay, maybe he means don't marry them or long-term date them, but why not smash? I mean, if they're attractive, if they're doing Jekyll and Hyde, if they're going to try to lure you in, why not just smash and dash? I don't see the problem here, guys. Filthy casual. I never said I haven't. I 100% have. Let me just confirm that. That's 100% I have. Yes, I have. Especially here in Asia. Look quite good in the 40s, guys. Look quite good in the 40s. So yeah, someone is nice and they look good. I don't really care the age. Sorry. I mean, sorry, not sorry. It is what it is, man. Yeah. So anyways, guys, that's the take on this. So Gonzalo Lira, there's some possible good, but you know what? There's a little clip. I'll play it now. You know what? I'm going to play it now. We got about 5 minutes here. I'm going to play a couple minutes of his talk from Fresh and Fit on females and corporatism. This is a part that I do agree with him on. And he just articulates it well, which is one thing he did well. He didn't really bring up much novel. This concept is not novel to him. He didn't fucking invent this argument. He actually admits he got it from an anthropologist, but he articulated it well. So I'm going to play this little clip about feminism. It's only going to be a couple minutes before we dash here, but this is him on Fresh and Fit talking about corporatism and feminism and how it really, corporatism is what ruined it for women. So let's play this real quick.
Feminism and corporatism. Yeah.
Okay.
But you got to understand something. When you blame feminism, you're missing the picture, because you look at feminism and you say, oh yeah, it's just a bunch of, purple-haired chicks who, down with the patriarchy shit. No, you got to understand that feminism was always a corporate enterprise. Okay. It's real simple. How come feminism is not pushing for more oil rig workers or more garbage collectors?
This is a good fucking point. Feminism does not push women into blue-collar jobs. Why don't they? Because those jobs pay a lot of money. In fact, those jobs give you the chance to be your own boss, to be an entrepreneur, to work for yourself, to be, frankly, a lot more happy than a person who's a corporate slave, who's in a company that just tells you to be a yes man or yes woman. Sit down, keep your mouth shut, stay in your corner, and write your pronouns out. And make sure you report to the safe space at your designated time, where you got Karen from HR barking at you. They're promoting those jobs to women, but not the blue collar jobs. This is true. This part is true.
Right? No, they're pushing for more women in high value added businesses where brain power rather than brawn power rules. You got a lot more women who are lawyers, who are doctors.
There we go. Lawyers. I can speak to that. And that's very true. When I heard him talk to this, I'm like, yes, this is very true. Now the legal market is flooded with lawyers. And let's continue here.
Now, why is that? How come, if you look at the average wage of a welder back in 1970 and the average age of a lawyer back in 1970, and you compare those same wages today 50 years later, you'll see that the welders' wages are pretty much steady, but the lawyers' wages went down.
Yep.
Well, because a lot more women became.
When you control for inflation, that's the thing you got to. But he didn't say that, but that's what he should have said. There was like, when you control for inflation, you have to control for inflation. But once you control for inflation, yeah, they went down. Like wages have 100% gone down in the legal field vis-a-vis 1950s, 60s. Certainly not for the 1930s. I mean, fuck.
Became lawyers, and not many more women became welders. Why were there so many more lawyers? Because they were encouraged to go into law, to forgo having children and a family, and pursue an economic, a legal career or any kind of value-added career, because they were looking to find themselves and
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so that's the part it cuts out there, but I just want to get that little part right there. He comes back in later because he has like a shit connection because he's in fucking Ukraine. But the point is that was damaging. That was damaging to women. That was damaging to women because women ended up, and there's surveys that he talks about it later, but there's surveys that have said that the majority of women, like 70% of women that are surveyed in corporate jobs that end up going home, like they end up saying they were in a corporate job, but let's say they have a family issue or they have a kid or whatever, and they end up going home. They're surveyed and said, are you happier at home with your family? Or are you happier back in the corporate workplace? And those people who are surveyed that have done both say, I'm happier at home. I'm like existentially happier, right? Like long-term happiness. But yet you're told in school, in media, and everything else, you need to be a boss bae, and that you will be happy being the boss bae. You'll be happy being the power person, and you got to be a power couple. You got to find another guy who's powerful, and you're going to be powerful together, and that's what they really want. No. You'll be happier making yourself happy, working for yourself, and being with your family, being with people you love. I'll get these super chats here. Transgender movement is hard, makes it hard to make him wrong about baby desire. Yeah. That's right. The point is they're trying to get that out of the society. They're trying to kill the babies, trying to get rid of the babies, remove that from the society. Michael says, I think men would usually want a woman lawyer in custody cases, better optics. So when like a man lawyer beating up with a mama. Yep, exactly, Mike. Exactly. That's a damn good point. All right, guys, listen. This is Unbreaded. I've had trouble. I've loved talking about this. 550 out of 5 of you. Smash the like button here. Right now, I got to head over to Scott from Future Conflict, his channel. We're going to be talking about that. And then after that, I will be on Nick Rekieta. So I'm going to go over to Scott for Future Conflict. And then I'm going to go over to Nick Rekieta. I'm going to be on his channel to cover the DEP stuff, the DEP testimony. So that's where I'll be tonight, guys. If you want to stay unbreaded, go there. Future Conflict. Let me get the link here for you guys in the chat so you guys have that link. Sorry, I didn't link it here in the chat. But I'll get you guys that one. And we'll be talking about Ukraine. We'll be talking about the war there. So it should be really, really a good conversation. All right, guys. Here it is in the chat. Here's the link. You got it to the channel. See Goody got it too. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, guys. Stay tuned, stay based, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.